And I'm not speaking from the perspective of the Metropolitan Police Department, or am I providing the legal advice?
Disclaimer right now, disclaimer.
No, I'm not speaking on behalf of 7th District, I'm speaking on behalf of myself. Hey everybody, my name's Alan Abishon. I'm an officer of the Metropolitan Police Department of 7th District. And I've been a police officer for going on 2 or 3 years now, almost.
And where you originally from?
Missouri, Cole County, Missouri.
How you migrate up to the DMV area?
Well, my dad's in the military. He got a job up here. We moved up here about 2003. Been up and around the Nova area ever since. And then went to active duty Marine Corps, was away for 4 years, and came back. Got a job as a police officer right after I left.
How was it in the Marines?
It was good. It was a good experience. Active duty service was really good for me. It provided me with a lot of opportunities, including the ones I have now. If you don't have a lot of direction in your life, you don't really know what you're doing, it's not a bad gig. I kind of recommend it to some people, especially people around here who may not have a lot going on for them. Federal service is not a bad gig. 4 years of free meals, free housing, uniforms, a job skill. You can walk away with a lot of skills and experience you won't get around here, so I highly recommend it.
So how you get into the M.P.D?
So when I was getting out of the Marine Corps, they have this thing called TRS, which is like Transition Ready Service. The military does it for all the branches now, but basically it's like what you're gonna do after the military, whether you do your 4-year contract or you do 20 years, they want you to be successful in civilian life. As an infantryman, there's a lot of skills I have that don't really translate to the civilian world. There's not a lot of stuff to do as an infantry guy that we can do out in the civilian world.
Were you in any active stuff in the Marines?
Not anything super crazy. We did service, and then they said, start applying to some police departments, a lot of transferable skills, note taking, kind of quick decision making, cool under pressure. So a lot of things that an infantryman would have. Some of the skills translate to being a police officer, not just like your combat related tasks and things like that, but as a police officer and as an infantryman, some of the skills co-mix. So that's why you see a lot of like infantry guys like me, they go to the police service, or like military guys in general.
Right.
Because we're used to serving, we're used to having a purpose and all that. So being a police officer, you're allowed to serve your community, not just your country, which I really enjoy. I really do enjoy DC. I'm in the DC National Guard in the dust-off unit here. So I do have a lot of love for DC. Proud to serve it.
What's the biggest difference you've seen from moving from down like Missouri up to the DMV area?
The culture is big difference. I'm not talking about like ethnic minorities and everything like that, because we have St. Louis, we have other places that are big diverse cities and all that. So not just that, but there's the culture of DC I had to get used to. I had to learn a lot, especially being a police officer, because growing up here I wasn't exposed to as much as like DC as I was when I became a police officer. I learned about go-go and all the food stuff and all the like
that mumbo sauce,
things like that. Like the culture of like I've never seen so many carryouts in my life. So I I didn't understand that. I had to learn that when I'm getting up here to being a police officer. So you had to learn the culture, and it helps to know your community too. So now that I'm being in Southeast, I had to learn Southeast culture. I had to learn because there is a culture. There's a culture in Georgetown. There's a culture up in Northwest and Northeast. But I don't work there. I work at Southeast, so it helps me more to know the culture there.
That's where you started out in Southeast?
Yes, that's where I still am.
So being in that area, do you travel in different areas of the city?
Not unless there's something serious going on. I work overtime at the clubs sometimes.
Okay.
Up in Northwest, up in the 3rd District. Other than that, I am assigned to the 7th District. So unlike other police departments where you kind of like bounce around certain areas, M.P.D, you stay in that district.
Okay.
So we've had officers who've been in the 7th District for years and years and years, and it helps them get a lot of experience. They know exactly what's going on, where everything is, who everybody is. I mean, we've got officers who everybody recognizes on the street, and they're like, oh, we know him, we know her. Like they've been here for 15, 20 years.
What did you want to discuss particularly, like the misconceptions and everything about the police force?
Yeah, there seems to kind of be like this this divide that we don't understand. Like it's not us versus them. It's not us, the police versus everybody else. Like we're here to serve you guys. We're here to serve the community. We're here to serve the people of DC and people of Southeast, in my case. But there seems to be sort of this, this divide that people have, right or wrong. You know, I'm not going to pretend like, you know, the police haven't been wrong in a lot of cases, or, you know, they haven't been an instrument of pain for some people and unnecessary suffering. I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't exist. I'm not going to pretend that M.P.D is perfect. Okay, we still have a lot to go, but I think the 7th District and M.P.D as a whole does a whole lot better than a lot of other departments in terms of, you know, take care of the community, listening to the community, being a part of the community. You know, that's another thing. We have a lot of officers who live and work. We have a lot of officers who live and work in Southeast and who grew up in Southeast, right, or grew up in DC. So they have a personal stake in policing there and policing effectively. And, you know, sometimes being super aggressive, you know, getting guys for drugs, getting guys for guns, getting all this for that, it's not always the best solution. But lately we've had kind of a really high uptick, and I think everybody in the city has just seen this high uptick in violence.
Right.
And not just violence, but, you know, crime in general. We're just kind of at a loss of, no, we're not at a loss every time, but a lot of times we just don't understand it, why it's happening.
So it's like nothing that y'all see that's like making this particular people or particular area go whichever way it's going?
I mean, there's a bunch of theories and root causes of it. But you know, that's maybe far beyond anything that's like PhD level understanding that I just don't have.
I got you.
But a big thing I see is that we have, you know, repeat offenders who, you know, they'll carjack somebody one day, get locked up the next day, and they're back out in the street in 1 or 2 days.
Okay.
Like, how is that fair to the people of DC? Like, we have people out on pretrial release for murder.
Is that due to both the COVID and the overpopulation of the jail?
It's not so much overpopulation, but I'm not speaking from the perspective of the Metropolitan Police Department, or am I providing legal advice?
Disclaimer right now, disclaimer.
No, I'm not speaking on behalf of 7th District, I'm speaking on behalf of myself, but that's due to some policies that DC had. Now, I want to stipulate that they did that because they thought it was fair and more just and more equitable. And sometimes it is. Is it really fair that somebody who's rich can bond out of jail and somebody who can't bond out of jail for the same crime? You know, one guy gets locked up for like back home, you get locked up for DUI, you can bond out. But if you don't have the money, you're staying in jail.
Right.
Is that really fair? Maybe not. But is it really fair to the people when you have a violent offender who's back out in the streets? We're not talking, you know, small crimes. We're talking like murder, illegal possession of firearms, you know, harmful drug distribution. Like, these are serious crimes that really affect the community. Like, really just bring people down and bring the area down.
Quick question.
Yes.
So the president was handing out pipes of some sort. Like, you don't remember that? Like they had like a little campaign where they was handing out like pipes to smoke.
Oh, like
not tobacco.
Yeah. So there have been several programs to try to alleviate the drug problem. They're kind of just seeing what works, because sometimes the solution isn't always lock everybody up. Everybody goes to jail. We lock up the dealers. Maybe that doesn't work, so they're trying other things. So I gotta applaud them for that, you know, trying something else, because it is worth, like, you gotta do things differently if something's not working. You know, unfortunately it doesn't, you know, people may not understand that, may not like it, but, you know, giving somebody clean access to drugs it's not great, and it doesn't look good, it doesn't feel good, but, you know, is it a little bit better than having them just kirk out in the middle of the street? You gotta look at that, because the drug problem is not going away. It hasn't gone away since
the beginning of the time.
Yeah, I mean, throughout recorded history, humans have been taking drugs of some kind. So it's not going away. It's not a new problem. It's just that we have a new type of the problem. So we have to find a better solution. But again, that's above us to figure out. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I haven't really seen it working. We still have a lot of issues from it, so maybe something else, but that's not for me to decide.
With the music scene,
I will say that's honestly a big problem too.
It is?
I would say so. There's only, so I follow DC artists, DMV, Hoodz and Newz, all those.
Yeah, that's how I got in contact with you on Hoodz and Newz page.
So I follow those pages, and you'll see me comment on them. But every rapper in DC, what do they talk about? Or not every rapper, I wouldn't say that. Was it Rock Kelly, is that his name? He talks about just being better as a person, being better in the community. Was it R&W Kelly? I can't remember. It's something Kelly. But he does good music, he does good work, he preaches a lot, so I really appreciate that. But you look at all the music, drugs, violence, and then sometimes they talk about freeing people who are locked up or killing somebody. In the same song, they'll invoke Allah or God, talk about killing somebody, ask them for their buddy to get out of jail, and then talk about selling drugs. You don't think that's an issue? And we have like No Savage is a good example of a rap beef that's just gone too far.
Right.
So I mean, it is now escalated to the point that they're openly shooting at each other outside of DC. That's insane. That's insane for the music scene to keep perpetuating this idea that it's cool to murder people. Like I'll tell a little personal story. It was on 9th and Waller. This was back in 2020. There was a girl, like I think she might have been 9 or 10, and she was killed in the crossfire. It was, yeah, I was one of the first responding officers to the scene, one of the first 5, I'd say, and I had to sit there, and I made contact with that family, and I stayed with that family for nearly 8 hours, and I watched their entire world just shatter. I watched their entire family come over because they couldn't believe it.
Right.
And I don't know if I don't never want to hear the cries of anybody like that again. But unfortunately, I do. I have to sit there and watch mothers and fathers and uncles and cousins come to a scene and find out that their son, their uncle, their father, their brother is dead. Not, they didn't pass away. They didn't die of old age, happy in a bed. They were murdered. For what? That's the other thing is we don't understand as police officers is these guys are killing each other. These young men who are usually younger than the age of 25, I think that's the median kind of like cutoff age, is between 20 and 26 is between our biggest murder range. These kids really are being killed for nothing, for drugs or for beef. Like that's insane. Like you want to kill somebody over which patch of concrete you're standing on? That you don't, like these guys don't, like, let's say like Woodlands, that's a hood, right? We got Stan Glen. Who owns that? The city? A private corporation? And you want to kill somebody over that? That doesn't make any sense. Like these guys say, oh, this is my hood, I live in the Z, I live over in Douglas, I live over in Jasper. But they don't own that. That's not theirs. That's somebody else's. They just live there. Why would you want to murder somebody over that? Like 10th place, Congress, they've been beefing since Lord knows when. Before I became a 7D. Before a lot of these guys were alive, they just said, oh, we hate those guys over there because they sell drugs and we too do. So do we. So they murder each other. They're dying in droves for nothing. We have multiple shootings a week now, even getting into when it's getting colder, of just people just murdering each other for no reason. And I have to watch, night after night, week after week, like these families getting torn apart for absolutely nothing. 6 in Chesapeake, we just had the brother whose other 2 brothers were also murdered in the same spot. That family's forever broken. Like one life is tragic enough, but I can't imagine losing 3 sons.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I can't even fathom the pain of that family's going through. And for nothing, irregardless that their sons did wrong, being wrong does not condemn you to death. And these guys are, it just sucks. Like night after night, you have to realize that somebody may die. Like that's not a feeling that anybody should have. And if it's not just a gun issue too. People talk about the gun issue, but we had people stabbed to death, run over. Just all these horrible things are happening for no good reason, and we can't figure out why. So I'm not asking, I should say, but I'm kind of imploring the community of Southeast, Southwest, Northwest, Northeast, kind of like really look at yourself like, why am I doing this? Why would I want to kill this person? Why would I want this person dead? Why would I want to run up on my ops? Like, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to risk your life or throw somebody else's life away? Regardless of somebody losing their life, like taking a life is no small thing. Like in every major religion, killing a person is a big deal.
Right.
Like that has been since the dawn of human time. Like murder has never been acceptable. So I don't know what makes it acceptable because they live in a different place than you do. Like you can't tell me that there's anything worth in DC killing somebody over. There's nothing.
So coming from another area into so do you find a lot of police officers in the M.P.D. come from other areas and come here?
There are a
is
few.
Is that a blockade of any sort?
No, I think there's a good. The DC has the cadets program, so that's good. If you weren't aware, we have the cadet program, which is it's between the ages of 18 and 22. After you graduate high school, you get in the cadet program, and it's basically a job. You work for the city. You do some tasks, either for the police department or for the city, and you earn college credits. So that the idea is that you go from the cadet program straight into being a police officer.
Okay.
So we have that. So we have plenty of people who are in the city. I mean, the chief from the city. So you have all those, like our commander, John Branch. I believe he's from the city as well. So he understands. Like we have, or he lived in the area, excuse me.
Okay.
So, but you know, everybody in the DMV kind of blends together.
Right.
So like I grew up in Alexandria, but I go into DC. Like it just kind of, that's why they call it the DMV. It's
right.
Yeah, like you drive 15 minutes. Like I drove 20 minutes here, and I'm in a different state.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen anywhere. That's very unique to the area. But we have officers who really do care about DC, who've grown up in DC, like to be in DC, want to be here. You know, that's another thing is police departments around the country have people who just don't want to be there anymore, and that's why a lot of police officers quit. I mean, we're still down. I think the DC Police Union said last year we're down 600 officers in staffing. And that's from the past.
That's due to the pandemic or just?
The pandemic, the riots, just burnout, fatigue, retiring. I want to say 600. I might be wrong in the number, but I believe that was the last number, or somewhere to that effect. But even over 200, 300, it's still a lot.
It is.
It's somewhere around that range. So we have guys who just don't want to be police officers anymore, and I don't necessarily blame them. I mean, it's a tough job.
Yeah. And that's another thing. Can you touch on the job part of it?
We have several different jobs. We're not just arbiters of peace, so we're not just peacekeeping, making sure with the presence just averts violence or keeps people from hurting each other. Keeping people from hurting each other, they're just by us being there. But we also, we also do traffic control. We have all the response to the crashes. There's domestic violence. We have officers who are CIOs, so they're critical incident officers, who are able to kind of talk to people with mental issues. We have, every day, every single day I'm at work, I will respond to a domestic situation. In the entire time I've been working, every time I've been working, there has been a domestic situation. There has never not been a disturbance call. There has never not been a domestic violence call. So we have to go to those situations. And we have to, kind of keep the peace, or unfortunately sometimes make an arrest. And that's on top of having to deal with violent crime, we have to enforce the law as well as uphold the law. And people kind of get confused. Enforcing and upholding the law are two different things.
Right.
I think upholding law is just by us being there. Because by us being there, that is what keeps people from breaking the law, right? And enforcing the law is unfortunately when we have to interdict when somebody breaks the law.
Right.
So we have to wear these different hats, and we have to not only be serving the community, but serve the government, serve the interests of the people, but serve the interests of the DC government. And sometimes those conflict. Sometimes they're always not coinciding, but that's our job. That is our job as police officers. So we have to walk a very fine line most days of where we are and what we're doing.
What's the difference in the M.P.D? Because is it federal? All charges are federal?
We were a federal organization up until the Home Rule Act, I believe in 1973. Probably got the date wrong, not too good with dates. But after the Home Rule Act, we did become a organization for the city. So we don't work for the feds. We're not a federal entity. We work for the District of Columbia.
Okay.
So we report directly to the mayor. And that's why we have the difference between Secret Service and Capitol Police. So Capitol Police has certain jurisdictions, and the Secret Service has other jurisdictions that we don't have. So like on Constitution Avenue, they have, the Secret Service has a 4-block jurisdiction that we don't have.
Okay.
Or the Capitol Police, they have the Capitol. They have all the certain other federal buildings that they're responsible for that we don't have jurisdiction over because that's federal property. And fun fact, who makes the most DUI lockups in DC? The Secret Service. I'm telling you. You look at the stats. They have pretty much every night they have somebody, because that big turn before you get into 395, there's a Secret Service officer there. And they'll get a drunk driver pretty much every night. You get at least one or two. It's a little fun fact for
Pay
you.
attention on that side, then.
Or those don't drink and drive.
Oh, that's the post that we actually were talking in. It was like, why do people call police feds in the DC
I think it's
area?
it's just kind of like a slang term. Like, why do they call us 12? No, I've asked people like, oh, 12's here. It's like, why you call me 12? And they're like, because you're 12. Like, what does 12 mean? You're like, I don't know. You're like, I don't know either.
You got anything else you wanted to share with the people?
I really hope the violence just kind of slow down, because it's heartbreaking. I don't want to get desensitized to people getting murdered. It's not something you wish to see. Illegal guns are a big problem, but I mean, at the end of the day, that's just a symptom. People using them are the problem. So we can lock somebody up for murder, but preferably we wouldn't have to make that arrest in the first place. So I really just want people to start valuing their life more, their community more, because here's the other thing is that DC's getting gentrified pretty hard. It's a lot easier to gentrify a neighborhood that's going in the gutter and the property value is really low, as opposed to having a nice neighborhood where everybody's together and the property value stays high and the city doesn't have to get involved. And the other thing I want to talk about is it can't all come from us. It can't come all from the police. It should not come all from the government. I don't think the government is the solution to every single problem facing DC. Like, a good portion of it has to come from the community. People in the community as well have to say, this is enough, we don't want this anymore, this is not right, we don't want any more dead kids. And we have that going on. We have the violence interrupters, we have churches starting to make some organizations, we have Guns Down DC. Like, there's a bunch of good organizations that are starting to pop up. They're kind of just spreading this awareness, like, you don't have to kill each other. You don't have to kill each other over nothing anyways. Not just not kill each other, but kill each other over nothing. I wish to see more of that. I wish to see more effective too, because there's not a person in the world that I can imagine beef is worth going to jail or risking your family, risking your life. Or the Bible, I think the quote from the Bible is, the wages of sin is death. So you don't want to be put in that position. And I don't want to see anybody put in that position. I would much rather police in a very calm, cool, collected area. But the fact of the matter is that Southeast DC is just, it hasn't changed in 30, 40 years, and some of these other police officers have been there. But I think it can. I think it certainly has a potential to. It has a potential. We want to be the best parts of DC. Like, the property values in Southeast are insane. People come together and say, we want to keep our neighborhoods to ourselves. It's got to come from within. M.P.D is not the end-all be-all solution. We would love to help, and we're here to help. We're here to provide service and be a part of the community, but at the end of the day, it has to come from everybody else too.
All right, man. Thank you for your time.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It was really nice to get out here and talk. I'm going to reiterate, I did not speak for the Metropolitan Police Department, but myself.
Disclaimer.